What's up, friends? It is Ashley with Her Money Mastery. If you're new here, welcome to my magical little corner of the internet where I teach women how to take control of their money with a mindset-based approach. We talk about everything from budgeting to debt payoffs, savings to money mindset, wealth building, and everything in between. And if that sounds like your vibe, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can come get your money motivation every week. So let's get straight into it. Today, we are talking about high yield savings versus regular savings. I get asked about this all the time, and I think it is super important that every single person has a high yield savings account. If you're keeping money in a regular savings account, you are losing money actively, okay? So we're gonna talk about why you should switch, like what are the accounts about, what's the differences, what are the dangers, things like that. If you have any questions about it as I go through, feel free to leave them in the comments or leave your favorite high yield savings in the comments so that other people can get some ideas. I do have a comparison of some of my favorite accounts. I'll leave the link to that in the description so you can check that out and go compare the different rates. It's free for you to use. So you can just go compare the different rates, see what accounts are best for you. But let's just get straight into it. First of all, what is a high yield savings account? It is an online savings account. It gets more interest for your savings just sitting in this account, which is essentially free money, right? So the reason why they can have these higher rates, and I'm about to show you a comparison like between a regular and a high yield, but these accounts have higher interest rates. The reason why is because a lot of these are online banks or online accounts, so they have less overhead. They can offer you a higher rate because they want to compete for your business. So they're essentially competing against each other. Now, the rates will fluctuate, and I want you to keep that in mind. So if you were to sign up for a high yield savings account that was at 3% interest, depending on what the market is currently doing, it might go up or down. I've had a high yield savings account for years now, and the rate has gone up sometimes really high. Sometimes it has gone down kind of low, but it is still at the end of the day going to be higher than a regular savings account. So my emergency fund that I have saved up, and by the way, you do need an emergency fund. Every single person needs to have an emergency fund. I do have other videos about that, but you keep your emergency fund in a high yield savings account. That way it can be accruing that interest, free money for your emergency fund, right? But also it is easily accessible if you need it. So if an emergency does happen, you can easily access that money and use it if you need it. Okay, so I hope that gives you a good idea of what these accounts are. It's just a savings account with a higher rate. So let's do a comparison so you can actually see the magic of a high yield savings account. So in this example, we have regular and we have high yield. A regular savings account is going to be like 0.01% interest, essentially nothing. Some of them are like 0.03, but that is negligible, okay? 0.01 is essentially nothing. High yield savings accounts, they vary. So I'm using 3% as an example because that's a good average for right now at the recording of this video. Sometimes they're in the 2%, sometimes they're up to 5-6%. It depends on the bank and also what the market is currently doing. So this is where that link I'm going to leave in the description for the comparison, it's going to come in really handy for this because it is going to show you at a glance what are the current market rates for the different high yield savings accounts because they do change. But we're using 3% for this example. So what I'm going to show you is the interest that will happen in each of these accounts over a 1-year time period for different amounts. Okay, so let's start off with $1,000. If you had $1,000 sitting in a regular savings account over the course of 1 year, that's going to give you about 10 cents, okay, a dime, which is essentially nothing in today's economy, especially. Now, if you had it in a high yield savings account, making 3% interest, which by the way, usually in high yield savings accounts, the interest compounds daily, you would get about $30 in the course of 1 year if you never contributed any more to this. It would just be $1,000. At the end of that year, you should have about $1,030. So is it making you a millionaire? No, it's not, but that's $30 you didn't have before, right? And so this is a good way for your emergency fund to be sitting in that account, growing small over time. And when you grow your emergency fund to the goal amount, which would be 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses usually, it will make more than this. So it's just growing over time. Now, if you had $5,000 sitting in savings, if you had a regular account, you'd get about 50 cents in the course of 1 year. In a high yield savings, you'd get about $152. That is a huge difference. obviously, right? So why would you not have your money in a high yield? Then if you have 10K, which, is a good amount for your emergency fund, you would get about $1 in 1 year's time. Whereas in a high yield, you would get about $300 in a year's time. So you can see how this really starts making a difference. The more money that you have sitting in there, the more money you're going to get in interest. And essentially, as I said, this is free money. You're not working for this money. Your money's working for you by sitting in this account. It is not the same as investing, and I will talk about that in just a minute. But you can see here, there is a clear winner, okay? Why would you not put your money over here in a high yield savings account instead of leaving it in your regular savings so that it makes no money, essentially? You want to get that extra money for no additional work. Okay, so let's talk about some FAQs. Okay, I get questions about this every single time I make a video about it. Some people have never heard of high yields before. So I want to try to answer some of these questions. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments because I'll answer them. I know a lot of comments come up about this, so I'm just going to talk about the ones that I see most often. First of all, is it risky? The answer to that is no. You want to make sure that the bank you're using is FDIC insured, meaning that your money is going to be secure in that account up to a certain amount, which is a large amount, right? If it's a credit union, it's different than FDIC insurance, but if it's a regular bank, just make sure the bank is FDIC insured. The reason these are insured is because it's not an investment. They will not insure investments, but we're not talking about investments. So it is not risky as long as your money is in a good insured bank, okay? It is just as safe as a regular savings account. Do you pay tax on it? The answer is yes to this, but you pay tax on the interest that is accrued. So if you have 10K sitting in that savings account over the course of 1 year, if it makes $300, or if it makes any amount of money, but in this example, 300, you're going to be paying tax just on the 300, not on the 10,000, right? That money has already been taxed. You already taxed it with your paycheck. You put it into savings. But this money that is accrued here, that is what you pay tax on. You pay tax at the rate of your tax rate, and it is basically a drop in the bucket, okay? So you will get taxed once you hit a threshold. Like you make a certain amount in taxable gains, they will send you a form and say, file this with your taxes, and you will pay tax on those gains. But like I just said, it's a drop in the bucket. If somebody handed you $300 randomly on the street and said, hey, sorry, but you have to pay a little bit of tax on this, a small amount, would you say, never mind, keep it? I don't want it? No, you wouldn't. You would say, okay, cool. Thank you for the free money, right? So the tax amount you have to pay, a drop in the bucket, it is literally negligible unless you have 100 grand sitting in there, which you should not, right? So can I access my money anytime? Yes, you can. It is the same as a regular savings account. So you have your money sitting in there. And like I said, you would ideally put your emergency fund in your high yield savings. If an emergency happens and you have to use that money, you just take it out of your savings, just like a regular savings account. Now, some banks do have withdrawal limits, meaning maybe you can only make 6 withdrawals within a month, but you can access the money anytime you need to, okay? So you'll just have to check with the different banks to see what are their withdrawal limits, if any, because some don't have any. But it is still going to be easily accessible for you. You can either transfer it over to your bank, or if you have a checking account at the same bank, you can just transfer it over. It's just like any other savings account. Is this the same as investing? No, it is not. This is a common misconception when you're learning about high yield savings. So just because it's earning interest doesn't mean you're investing money. Investing is a totally different topic. So you would have a brokerage account, right? You would have an investment account. You would then go into that investment account and purchase investments. And then those investments would grow within the market depending on what the market is doing. This is not the same thing. You are not purchasing investments. You are only putting money into savings. And then that savings is accruing interest based on the rate of that account. So you can access it anytime. Your money is not tied up into investments, because if you went and put your entire emergency fund into investments, say that you went and put all of your emergency fund into a Roth IRA, which is an investment account, and you went and purchased a whole bunch of S&P 500 stock, right? Your money would be tied up. So in order to use that money, no matter what stock you invested it into, you're going to have to sell that stock to access the money. That is not what this is. Your money is always easily accessible. It is always there for you to use if you need it. So that is a totally different topic. Don't get the two mixed because they're not the same. So this is going to be a shorter video, but I just wanted to explain the difference between these two because it is super important that you know what tools are out there for you to use for your money so that you can be getting the most for your money, so that your money can be working harder for you while you are working harder for your other money. You take this and put it into your high yield savings. It's working for you, getting that interest so that you can have free money back in your account. And this is one of the ways that you can grow your emergency fund. Now, what are other things you could do with the interest earned? And this is where it kind of gets fun because you can either leave it in your high yield savings. So they usually will pay you, every bank is different, but they usually will pay you out your interest monthly, at least mine does. And you can either leave it in there to grow even more, or you can take it out and use it for other things. So say you had 10K sitting in there and you got $300 in a year, right? This is not monthly, but it's in a year. Maybe you wanted to take that 300 out and use it to pay down some debt. Or maybe you want to take that out and use it for fun money. Like maybe you treat yourself. It doesn't matter what you do with that, but just know it's there. So have a plan and think about it, at least what you want to do with the money that you gain in the high yield savings. And yeah, if you have $1,000 in there, you're not going to get as much in there, but it's still extra money. And if you're watching this right now and you're thinking, what the hell, I don't have 10K in savings, that's okay. Nobody gets there overnight. That is a goal that you can reach. And once you do, you get more money for reaching it. So it's like a reward, you know, I love high yield savings accounts. I've had one for years. I use it for my emergency fund, but I also keep some other things in there. So expenses that happen yearly, for instance, I have a Christmas fund that I contribute to all year long. Right after Christmas, I start back contributing to this fund all year long. It sits in my high yield savings account and it's separate than my emergency fund. So for instance, if you have a bank like Ally Bank has buckets within their high yield savings so that you can have a bucketed amount for your emergency fund. You can also set up other buckets for other things. So I have a bucket for my Christmas money and all year I contribute to that. Then when Christmas rolls around, I can just take all that money out and go shopping with it. And then after Christmas, I start back contributing to it. So those are other things you can do with a high yield savings account because that money is going to accrue interest just sitting in that account. So why would you not have it in there, right? Or if you pay taxes and maybe you're a business owner or you own a house and you are doing your property taxes, you can monthly contribute to your high yield savings. It sits there all year until you have to pay that bill, but it has earned a little bit of money while sitting in there. So if you use this effectively, it is beneficial for you and there's no reason not to have a high yield savings account. If you're worried about the tax part of it, please rest assured you don't need to worry about that. It is a drop in the bucket compared to the benefits of having this. So if you do not have a high yield savings right now, or you are at the very beginning of your journey and you're just about to start trying to save for the first time, go ahead and set you up a high yield savings. Get ahead of the game because it's better than having to transfer all the money over later. But if you already have a regular savings and you want to move, that should be an easy process. You should be able to just transfer your money over. There is no risk with that. Okay, so if you're worried about it, you can talk to the bank you're trying to move to, and they will tell you the process of how to do it, and they will ease some of your fears about it. But have no fear. The high yield savings is here, okay? So let me know down below if you have any questions about this because I want everyone to get one of these. It is so beneficial. Now, a couple words before I sign off. I have a new thing that is in the universe now. It's called the Money Mastery Vault. It is a monthly membership, and it is filled with money management tools and resources for you to make progress no matter what part of the journey you're on. There's tools in there for getting organized and planning your money, budgeting, saving, debt, money mindset, and I have a private podcast in there called the Daily Money Frequency, where I give daily money and mindset messages to the Vault members. So it's really cool. If you are interested in that, I'll leave the link down below for you to join. And like I said, it's a monthly membership, but every single month I add new tools and resources to the Vault. So it's always growing, it is always evolving, and there's going to be always new stuff for you to choose from, and so that you can start making progress, because some people don't want a course, right? I do have a course, but not everybody wants to go that route. And I also wanted a way for money, tools, and resources to be accessible to people. So it is not a high cost. You can get in there, use the tools you need, leave the ones you don't. You can cancel anytime. It doesn't matter. I just want you to be able to make progress. So yes, I still do have standalone tools. If you're only looking for like a debt calculator, you don't want a membership, I do have debt calculators. If you are only looking for a 12-month finance planner, I have that as well. That's not inside the vault. It is just a standalone product. So I'll just leave links down below if you want to check these things out, because nothing's going to change unless you make it change, right? If you want to make progress with your money, you have to do something about it. I do also have free resources. If you need a free place to start, I have free training. I have free saving goal planner, things like that. I just want you to get started somewhere, because if you don't ever start, you're never going to make progress, friend. We are 1 month almost into the new year of 2026, and we have 11 months to go. You can make an incredible amount of progress in 11 months if you haven't started yet. I personally paid off all my debt and saved my first little emergency fund in a 1-year time period. You can totally change your life around. I just need you to get started. You don't have to be perfect. Just show up every day, be consistent, and take imperfect action, and you will make progress towards your goals, I promise. And I am here to help you along the way. If you have questions, please ask, because I'm happy to help you. So I hope this helps. I just want you to truly know and understand you can change it if you want to. You can change your finances. You can change your life. You just need the right info and the tools to make it happen. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you next week. Until next time, you got this, friend.